Chip, I do not know. Be here too, so we'll just have to see. So, all right, time now is 7:03. I'm going to call the meeting to order. For panelists, board members, I'm trying something new. I put in the chat reading assignments, so I don't have to cold call everybody for their reading assignment. But I did assign Chip one and he's not here. So Jonathan, if you can do core values when we get to that, I would appreciate it.
Got it.
Let me go ahead and share screen so you all don't have to go looking for it. All right, so I will start us off here. The vision of GLOBE is to develop globally minded citizens who have the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to affect positive change in our world.
Right, is this me now?
Christy, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
I got it, sorry. The Globe Academy fosters global learning opportunities through balanced education for children of all backgrounds, with a focus on dual language immersion, an experiential learning model, and a constructivist approach. Globe inspires students to be high-performing lifelong learners equipped to make a positive impact in the world.
Core values. The Globe Academy's core values are expressed in the acronym CREST: community, respect, empathy, sustainability, and trust. These values are expected of the governing board, faculty, staff, parents, and students. They're woven into daily life at Globe and incorporated in the curriculum.
I can do core values. Core values, the Globe Academy's core values are expressed, acronym CREST, community, respect.
Jonathan, hey, Luis, Jonathan just did core values. If you can do community, that'd be great though.
Community, we are inclusive and we nurture and support.
Abba, could you do respect?
Sure, I couldn't hear him. So respect, we treat ourselves and each other with kindness and dignity.
Thank you.
I'm here now.
Drew, could you do empathy? You're on mute.
We strive to understand and share the feelings of others.
Sustainability. We aim to conserve our resources for optimal use in the present and future.
Trust. We are committed to honesty, transparency, and respectfully sharing our thoughts and encouraging others to do the same.
All right, thank you. All right. We are going to move on to public comment. We did have 2 folks sign up for public comment through the board of directors email. Amberly Toole and Christine Kerouac. So let me just kind of note here, you can see it on the screen and then I'll stop sharing as we move on in a minute here, but we do give speakers 2 minutes. We do caution speakers for making comments that involve an individual staff member, a personnel action, student disciplinary matter, or a complaint about an individual student or an impending legal matter for which the Globe is engaged. Speakers are asked to state their remarks in a courteous manner, and as a matter of protocol, the board members will not respond to public comments at this time during this meeting. All right.
Ryan, who is the first one?
Amberly Toole.
Great. All right, Amberly, you should be able to speak now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, like you guys stated, my name's Amberly Toole, and I just wanted to speak tonight to ask a few questions of our school. And like, although there's no response that you guys give, I just wanted to just shed some light on some things that I thought were important issues. And so just to get started, it's just, Globe has stated that its core values drive its daily steps towards the ultimate goal to create these vibrant, dynamic, unique learning experiences that engage every student, stimulate their intellectual curiosity, and facilitate academic excellence and achievement. So my question from there stems, how are we setting ourselves up to achieve this goal, and what are these steps? Are our teachers highly qualified? Are they highly qualified by the state of Georgia standards, certified by the state? And what do the percentages look like at Globe? Also, what is the process for going from a teaching assistant to a lead classroom teacher at Globe? Are we equipping our teachers and staff with the tools to be able to actually engage every student, differently abled students, students from diverse ethnic backgrounds, or students from an array of socioeconomic classes? Additionally, why do we not support IEPs in students' target languages? Why is Globe not offering students to help its students fulfill these academic goals? Globe continuously boasts about their CCRPI scores, but is this based on solid Globe instruction or the many tutors and tutoring services that are offered and constantly referenced in the Globe Parents Facebook group, Globe and Teachers Parents Facebook group? What happens to the families who cannot afford the extra tutors to support their child's learning? Because from the records, it shows that Black and Brown students, socioeconomically disadvantaged students, and students with disabilities are constantly 10+ percentage points behind white students at Globe. And as we continue, I know we are putting things in place to address equity and diversity at Globe, but what is happening currently as we are trying to get all of these items lined up? And then lastly, how do we see COVID-19 and virtual learning affecting our most vulnerable learners, and what is currently in place to protect these learners? And that was all I had. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Amberly.
Thank you, Amberly.
Okay, you covered a lot of ground there. So we do, as I mentioned, like our policy is to not respond now. It is not that we will not respond. So, you know, we are interested in digging into some of the things that you talked about, but it is quite a bit. So we appreciate your comments, and at a minimum, I will be in touch with you to talk a little bit more. So thank you very much for that. All right, our next speaker is Christine Kerouac.
All right.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Can you see me also?
No.
Then I wasted some lipstick. Okay. No problem though. Well, thanks guys. My name is Christine Kerouac. I have 2 sons on the French track in 1st and 4th grades. This is only our 2nd year at Globe, and honestly, we love everything about it. And I know that all of us are doing the best we can to provide our students with a first-rate education in really unusual circumstances. And I also can tell that a lot of time, talent, and energy was invested in the development of this year's virtual learning strategy. But I wanted to provide some feedback from a parent's perspective. I honestly am struggling mightily to manage 2 virtual learning schedules and my own work schedule, particularly when my 1st grader has less than 2 hours of online instruction a day, which is set up in 20-minute increments and spread across 6 hours. Now, our teachers, they have obviously noticed that my sons have missed a class or 2 when my full-time job pulled me away from managing their comings and goings. And I understand that the small group and the short format approach is meant to mitigate our teachers' real struggle to engage 24 to 48 students at a time virtually like they did in the spring. But I also understand now that teachers rotate through 9 small groups per day. And I too actually have 9 sessions to launch for my sons in total each day. So I guess I'm asking, is the schedule as it's set up now, if it's hard for both parents and teachers, is it working for our children? From my perspective, it's inefficient, and there's a lot of waste in the day in finding the right class at the exact right moment, not too early, not too late, the technology struggles and the waste and the roll call and the pleasantries that begin and end each of our 20-minute sessions. Really plainly, a choppy and fragmented schedule does not foster the focus and concentration that is needed for learning, and it only intensifies the stress level in the home. We can't solve one big problem and only turn to create another one. I don't want to be just part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution. And so I'd love to try, having at least the younger grades do virtual instruction in 3 2-hour blocks between 8 and 3, where a student uses 1 block for online learning and 2 for either focused study or work. But I know this is an iterative process, and I know that what we have now is better than what we had in the spring, but we're not there yet. And I hope that we're agile enough at Globe to make adjustments in real time. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. I think I heard you say you had 2 sons in the French track, and I heard 1st grade, and what was the other grade?
4th.
1st and 4th. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Christy.
All right. Thank you both for that. Always appreciate comments from the public. Helps us look at what we're doing and get better. So thank you. All right. We are going to move on to the consent agenda. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. All right, we'll move on to PTCC report. Not sure who we have on tap tonight. I saw
Michelle.
Michelle's here. Michelle, did you take
I'm here.
Awesome.
Hi, everybody.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. You should have our one-pager in your packet that I will go through. So PTCC goals are to increase PTCC volunteerism, our 2021 event planning, while in a virtual environment, and continuing to support our community, to create and support our community, enhance accessibility of PTCC events for all Globe families, support teachers and admin for a successful distance learning environment, and establish and I get stuck on words, so bear with me. Establish a collaborative effort with the Globe board. So working together, it's easier for me to say. We have several positions that are open we're still looking for volunteers to fill. We have 2 co-lead positions for the fundraising pack and the global awareness pack. We're looking for a Spirit Night co-lead. The email address, if you know of someone that's interested, is on the report. And we are definitely in need for room parents. Not every class has room parents that voluntarily signed up during the survey that was sent at the beginning of the year. We are finalizing our budget for the year and ready to present to school in September for comments and approval. Our first, we launched our speaker series on virtual learning, giving, some tidbits of information and tips to parents to help support our kids throughout this time. Our first session was, I think, a hit. We got really great comments on it. We had 83 attendees, and it was also posted on our social media, so people could rewatch at home, or the ones that couldn't make it to the meeting, they could see it. We have a couple speakers lined up that can talk about different topics, which are also in our report. We are looking for experts and staff from the school to help throughout this speaker series, since they have great information on what the school vision is to project to the students. Our upper campus scoreboard, we're ready to order. We're just finalizing on the graphics, and we are very excited about that. It's awesome, and it'll be ready for when our athletes are back in the building. Lower campus teacher lounge, it's been a long road, and we want to get to the end of it as soon as possible. So We are coordinating with Jerry Ross for the renovations, and according to the last report we have, they should be starting up at the beginning of September. We have a new Spiritwear store that's open. We have new t-shirts with virtual learning Ollie, and another much more other items besides t-shirts. So that has been a great addition. For school orientation, it was great. The virtual orientation, at least on our end, worked out really well. And we are in the process of reaching out to those who volunteered for events through that registration form that I mentioned earlier. And we have our upcoming events. We have our ice cream social. That's early September. We're still, the date is still to be determined, and how we're doing that event is too, because there will be no ice cream, nor it will be social. So we're trying to figure it out. We do have a Spirit Night lined up for Hopsticks on September 22nd. We also have another Spirit Night lined up at Matthews Cafeteria in October. And then our Upper Campus Book Fair is scheduled for September 28th through October 2nd. That will be a virtual book fair. And as far as the Spirit Nights, we are strongly looking for Globe businesses to support throughout this time, and both of those are Globe family restaurants. So that's all I got. You guys have any questions?
Thank you, Michelle. I'm excited about the Hopsticks Spirit Night. That's actually at Hopsticks then?
Yes.
All right. Yeah.
Takeout.
Yeah, we got takeout from there over the summer. It was great. Awesome. Wanted to share with the board that a couple weeks ago, I think Christy and I met with Michelle and Laura, the co-chairs of the PTCC, and I learned a lot when I kind of started as a board member several years back. I can't say that I knew the breadth of what the PTCC did. And so this was kind of a learning for me to make sure that we're aligned in what we're doing and we're working together. And we had a really great conversation and actually filled the hour and didn't get finished with what we wanted to even talk about. So you'll see in some of what Megan is going to present tonight, a little bit of clarity about how the PTCC does fundraisers and how they plug into development and fundraising. We're going to kind of continue our conversation, but I would envision here sometime pretty soon, we would ask them to come and actually give us a kind of a broader presentation of the history of the PTCC, how they operate. There's some logistics with the bylaws and how we interact with them. But I would like for us to get to a point where we're arm in arm a little bit more than we have been in the past, and just everybody is knowledgeable about what they're doing, and we can promote the work that they're doing and getting kind of increasing our volunteerism as well. So just more of a kind of an update on what we've been doing outside of meetings. So more to come on that. But thanks again, Michelle. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. We are going to move on to committee reports. It looks like we kind of defaulted back to our original order, which is good for tonight. So we're going to start with the executive director's report, but I think we're going to kind of lead with head of schools giving us some updates on how we've been doing the first couple of weeks of school here, and then turn it over to Christy. So who gets to go first?
Any takers?
Not it.
All right, Marcia, I think that means you're up if you're up for it.
Gotta be faster than that, Marcia.
You're on mute, Marcia.
Oh, good. I'm glad you didn't hear what I said. Okay, so I need to share my screen here. We have been very busy with our virtual learning. Are you seeing it? Oh, good. I'm glad. Well, as you can see, Judy Lamore and I have been quite busy learning how to do Bitmojis and having fun. So we'll give you an update of what we've been up to. We've prepared a lot over the summer. Our administrators considered best practices, how much screen time was appropriate for different age levels. We looked at student capacity, what were they capable of doing, and what were we willing to do. We referred to the data. We had a survey that went out to teachers about the spring, what worked, what didn't work, what did teachers feel confident about, what did they feel like they needed help with. We also got parent feedback about the spring. And we spent most of the summer looking at every possibility. We prepared for hybrid, we prepared for going back, we prepared for virtual learning. And so we felt like we were in a pretty good shape from there. We looked at schedules to accommodate student and teacher needs. And certainly we are constantly working to perfect that and make it better. Our teachers were also preparing over the summer. They had summer homework on digital learning. They looked at curriculum mapping for synchronous and asynchronous learning. You see that some of our teachers became quite expert. This is the 8th grade Google site and Miss Mark's page. So there was lots of things going on over the summer. When we asked teachers what did they need and what would they be willing to help with, we had this many teacher-led workshops that came about from the survey and during our pre-planning. Because of the delay in the start, we had time to do some training, and so these were a number of different workshops that teachers were willing to do and were very helpful to each other. We recorded them. We set up a distance learning plan that is a working document that things are added to all the time, and so all of these are there for teachers to continue to refer to. We also sent out information to parents, the Parents Distant Learning Manual, which is across the school. We had back to school parent sessions, 2 different nights of parent sessions. We had a virtual orientation that was facilitated by the admissions department. We have asked teachers to do weekly updates to put onto their Google Classrooms every week before the following week so that they would be ready to start up. We set up Google Classroom consistency. Teachers, as I said, are posting weekly updates by Friday afternoon so that there is a plan for students and parents about what's happening the next week, the classwork topic for the weekly agenda, and the codes that will be needed for the following week. And so all of our Google Classrooms look much more consistent than they did in the spring. We've had some very positive comments from parents. Globe picked the best video conferencing. This was on the day that Zoom failed for a lot of school systems, and we were very excited that we were able to keep ours going with our our Google Classroom platform. We've had 95 to 100% attendance daily on the upper campus, and I think it's pretty close to the same thing on lower. We are focusing on responsive classroom. This is a connections class. You see all those smiling faces, and our students are busy setting up their group, their little nooks for learning. So we're feeling pretty good about what's happening so far. Map testing starts tomorrow for upper campus. It started today for lower, I believe. We're doing it the 1st through the 3rd. We have 8 a.m. sessions and 12 p.m. sessions. We've spread out students so that there are only 10 students to a proctor. So they have a consistent proctor and a consistent testing group. We looked at scheduling considerations, so we didn't have too many students trying to test at the same time. We are scheduling elementary school and middle school map virtually, and we're looking forward to its doing well. And we also were looking at Wi-Fi bandwidth so that if people had more than one child, we didn't have everybody on at the same time. Judy is going to be troubleshooting during this time. We have Google Meets for students to do the virtual testing, and Judy has set up a Zoom link for parents to troubleshoot if there's any issues that come about. We want to thank everybody for the PTCC for the wonderful shirts that they gave to everybody. This is the first thing that they've done for us this fall, and everybody was very excited about these new t-shirts. We have a shout out to board members. We had our new band teacher who's had to come in and try to teach band virtually, got an email from a board member, and he said his child was so excited about band, and by the way, he had smoked some meat and homemade barbecue sauce, and would she like to come over and pick some up? So she felt like that was a great welcome to Globe as a new faculty member. And to parents who have been so supportive and have put up so many wonderful comments about what's going on, and they've been very patient and know that it's not perfect yet and we're still working at it, and we appreciate everybody's support. And so far, you know, this isn't what anybody wanted to do, but it has turned out to be, we're having a good experience so far in Upper Campus. So thank you.
Thanks, Marcia.
Let's see if I can stop sharing. There you go.
Thank you, Marcia. I wanted Marcia to go first because I know that her presentation had more slides in it about things that were across both campuses, such as some of our summer work and things like that. So this is a perfect segue into more of lower campus things. Can someone please confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Katia Blunt, the lower campus head of school, and I am pleased to become a first-year principal once again. We are all first-year teachers, first-year principals, first-year everything, and that's just very important to keep in mind. No one has done this work before, not a single person, and I am very well connected all around the world through my previous position as an ed tech consultant, and we are all just learning this. And so I guess I want to begin where Marcia ended and just say thank you for all of the support that you're giving us, and please keep it coming. So with that in mind, here are some distance learning updates from lower campus. And we'll begin by talking about the devices that were checked out from Globe as far as were checked out from lower campus, because it wasn't required, unlike upper, that students come and get one of our devices. But for 2nd and 3rd grade, to date, we have checked out 173 Chromebooks. Miss Cat, the interim assistant head, is taking care of Chromebook checkouts, and I know that she has about 4 more scheduled, so that number will increase. And for kindergarten and 1st grade, to date, we have checked out 228 brand new iPads. And I believe I have 7 parents meeting me on campus tomorrow to pick up their iPads. I never again want to see another iPad. There was a lot to go through to get them deployed, but it's so nice to get them in the hands of our students. And we are having a couple glitches. Everything's done remotely. And it's a fantastic program, but when you push out that many apps, not all of them go through. So we just ask you to continue to email me, and I can get your serial number and push out the apps that are supposed to be on there, but kind of got stuck somewhere in the universe. If you still need a Globe-owned device, it's not too late. All you have to do is purchase insurance first, and then email me, and I will make arrangements for you to pick up the Chromebook or iPad. All right, so those of you that have a first grader or kindergartner, these are the iPad apps that are supposed to come with your iPad. So the ones that are used every day by all students, I shouldn't say every day. The first two are every day, Google Classroom and Google Meet. But then everyone for KN1 is using the NWEA secure testing app for map testing. Frequently used by some, we have Epic, Flipgrid, Seesaw, Class, Loom, and Google Photos. Coming soon, your child may begin using some of those apps such as BrainPop, Nearpod, and Jamboard. And then some people are using Google Calendar because if you don't know, every time you create or a teacher creates a new Google Classroom, it automatically puts the assignments on calendars. And that was one of the apps that a parent asked me for, and I said, that's a great idea. He's already taught his child how to also use Calendar to see her assignments, and also Google Drive and Google Slides. In order to help us, and by us, I mean me, manage all of those iPads, we are gonna have every iPad be the same. So please don't email me asking me to just add an app to your child's iPad. It really has to be one that's gonna be used by many kids, and so therefore we can push out the apps to all of the iPads. We are only planning on using free apps, because if you don't know about the Apple School Manager program, if you purchase a paid app, you have to buy that number of copies of it, or that number of license. So it's not just a 99-cent app, it becomes like a $300 app when you have to buy one for every iPad. Google Classroom. So by now, hopefully, all of our students have joined 8 Google Classrooms. So when they log into classroom.google.com on a Chromebook or laptop or desktop, or if they click the Classroom app on their iPad, then they'll see 8 different classrooms. 1 for English, 1 for language, and then 6 for each of our connections. All right. I want to finish with spotlighting our teachers. This is always one of my favorite things to do. And I always email them and I just say, give me, you know, all you can. And they immediately hit the reply button, and they just have way too many things to share. I could spend the next hour sharing all the good things that are going on. But I'll do 3 spotlights, 1 on English, 1 on language, and then 1 on connections. And I'll begin with English. And this is from 2nd grade, and it's what the students use to go about their day today. So when today is Monday, right? They joined, thank you, Christy. They joined their Google Classroom and clicked on this Google slideshow where Ms. Holmes and Mr. Terry, they have a morning message for them. And then the students just kind of click through. And it really is the perfect way to keep up with their schedule. They begin with a morning meeting, and I love how Ms. Holmes and Mr. Terry on the far left said, what I miss, just in case students have to miss a component of their day, they're still able to know what they were going to do. So they began their day this morning at 8 o'clock with the morning meeting. And then it was math, and they all know if they're, which animal group they're in. And then it really breaks it down for them. So you can see that during each time frame within this math block, they are either watching a recorded lesson, they're joining a live small group, or they're responsible for their independent work. And this remains consistent. It's definitely 100% consistent on their English days, and the teachers are trying really hard to partner with their partner teachers so that it looks as similar as it possibly can on the language days. And then it's time for second graders to go to Connections. All of our Connections are live each day. That's different than it was in the spring. And for parents, our teachers are really, really, really trying their best to also help you out. So in this case, for parents, they can click here to always know the Connections daily schedule. So Miss Kiana at Lower Campus in the front office, she went through for each homeroom, and I believe she's gone through October 2nd right now. So all of you can pull up what Connections your child will have on September 20th, if that's a weekday, and you'll know exactly what connection your child will have. So we are doing our best to front load all that information for you because we know that parents are juggling so many things. And then after that, it's the literacy block. And again, on the screen, you can see what the students would be able to do during that block. And then they go to lunch and recess, continuing with map time. The Lower Campus pioneered remote map testing today. I won't get into that right now. Thank you, Christy, for the spirit fingers. Thank you to any parent out there that had their child logged in the map. I did ask the teachers afterwards, we did a debrief. I asked them to rate their experience between 1 and 10, and the average number, 1 being like the smoothest, most relaxed experience ever, 10 being expletive. And our average score was a 3.5. So not bad at all. I'll take it. We look forward to day 2 tomorrow. But all the information that your child needs to log into map testing for Lower Campus is going to be in their English Google Classroom. And then their day is coming to a close. They had their literacy block number 3. They had some reading, read alouds to go through, and then they ended with the daily checkout form. So that was just one example of Spotlight on second grade English. All right. And let me go to the next Spotlight. Oops. All right, Spotlight on language. I want to show you 2 pieces of student work because I still can't get over how amazing it is to watch students just learn the second language and be completely immersed in it. So this first example is from second grade Mandarin, and this student, Claire, is using Seesaw during Writer's Workshop, and I hope the sound works. Christy, let me know if it does not work, please. Oops.
"白色的猫，这是紫色的老鼠，这是咖啡色的狗，这是蓝色和橙色的鱼，这是黑色的鸟，这是绿色的书包。再见。
So precious. Did the sound work, Christy? Anybody? Did the sound work?
Yes.
Okay. So say worked for me. And the second example is kindergarten French, and the students began the year. Marcia mentioned responsive classroom during her presentation, and that's something that we take the first 6 weeks to really drill into our students. And Madame Hebo came up with some class rules, and the students agreed to them, and then they had to say them in French. So here is Mara.
Bonjour, regarde, écoute, maman, au revoir.
Very good. And that was using the app Flipgrid to do. All right, and our last spotlight is on connections. And for this board meeting, I chose music. Ms. Sherwood has created this, before I mentioned that all connections classes are live, but most of them have also created extension activities. And this is the one that Ms. Sherwood created for 2nd and 3rd grade students. And I won't click on very much on here because I'm running close to my time being up. But if you click on some of the items that you see within her virtual classroom, then you can link to extension activities. So there's one about learning the piano and just a whole bunch of fun stuff kind of hidden in her virtual classroom. And I had a really good time this afternoon kind of clicking on some things and going down the rabbit hole of all things music. And so hopefully if you have a 2nd or 3rd grader, you can find that link in their music Google Classroom, and they can access it anytime, not just when they are assigned to that connections class. And I do have one final slide. And I just want to remind everyone that we are in this together. We need you just as much as you need us. Thank you so incredibly much for those of you who have just agreed to hold our hands in this together to help us get through it. So thank you.
Thanks, Katia.
Thank you very much, Marcia and Katia.
All right, Christy. I think it's...
Do you want to show the packet, or do you want me to share my screen?
If you have it up, you can go ahead and share.
Sure.
Whatever's easier.
Everybody see it? All right. Don't make fun of the number of tabs I have open up at the top. Okay, just some updates for everybody. Professional learning. We did started out with our DEI training with our vendor, which was awesome. We did have 8 hours of training with that vendor on 2 4-hour retreats. We also had Eureka math training for our lead teachers in elementary. That was about a 6 hours of training, really digging into our math program that we are using here for elementary. Saturday was GADI, which is Georgia's Dual Language Immersion Conference. They had it virtually. It was Saturday, and many of our staff attended that. And there were some really good sessions on special ed in immersion and digital learning in immersion, and how are we all coming together and learning from each other through this. Just like I want to reiterate with what Katia said, you know, this is the first time we're all doing this. And so it was good to be surrounded by people who are all in the same work and hearing each other as we move forward. So that was really good. Technology, you've already heard about that. It's here. We're excited about it. We did have some board and some staff and some parents who have filled out the form to apply to be part of our reentry review task force. Because we know, we're not sure when that time is coming, but we know it's coming. It is coming. I promise. I promise. Everybody, I need to see that glimmer of hope in your eye. It is coming. But we'll begin putting this team together in mid-September. We did have a little over 15 parents apply to be on this task force. We are going to pick between 4 and 5 who will serve on that task force. we are looking at having a nice array of experiences and expertise bringing to the table, and also across campuses and also all around DeKalb County, because we know that sometimes it could vary on what happens with this beautiful thing called COVID across our county. So we really want to get a nice cross section. Drew and Katie and Anita, even though she's not on the board anymore, with her expertise with CDC, are the three that volunteered from the board to be on this task force. So the four of us are going to be getting together to make sure that we pull this team together in a timely manner. And we will be bringing updates and recommendations to the board for approval for reentry plan. So just know that that is coming, and we'll be working on that. Digital learning. I know we've heard a lot about that from Marcia and Katia, but I just want to, reiterate, we've got a week and a half under our belt now. And just so you know, we found out things that occurred that we had no idea we couldn't predict it, or we didn't know they would occur until we actually got into the work and started doing it. And so we're constantly evaluating where we are, how we can improve, and how we can remove obstacles, especially for students. That's our main goal, is for them to have the best experience possible. So thank you for jumping into this year with us as we begin to do school this way. And like I said, there's hope. We are coming back. We just don't know when, but we'll be ready when we do. Looking at enrollment, we have made it to number 68 on the kindergarten list, which is very unusual for us. We usually don't make it that high, but this is unprecedented times. We are still doing that exit survey that we send to parents when they withdraw. So at the next board meeting, I will have some data to share with you about especially those students who have chosen to leave at the very beginning of this year. So we'll have some data to go over with that. And you can see we're at number 17 on the first grade list, and sixth grade has really not moved a lot since school has started. I actually don't think it's moved at all. We're still on number 21 on the sixth grade list out of 119. So we're looking good there. Our total is 1,077 students. So that's where we are right now. We will be doing like I said, we're constantly learning and figuring out where we are with digital learning, but we will be doing a survey probably October-ish. So look for that, so we can continue to grow and learn. So that's the most important thing that we want to do, is just keep forging ahead. And that wraps up my report. Marcia and Katia, thank you again.
Thanks, Christy. Any questions for Christy?
All right, thank you.
I should have done this at the conclusion of Marcia and Katia's, but I do want to offer a chance for y'all to ask questions of them as well. Is there anything that you heard from Marcia that anybody wants to follow up on? Going once, going twice. Anything from Katia? All right, I guess everyone's really looking forward to getting into this budget. It's hard when everyone's on mute. You don't get any feedback at all from people.
I wanted to say it was amazing what you guys presented before. So I'm sorry I have to follow with the boring important part, but.
Right. So let's turn it over to Luis and finance report with our upcoming budget here.
Exactly. So hopefully you can hear me well, and you can see my screen with the numbers. So I want to say this has been a challenging year to do a budget. We are 2 months behind the schedule, and the main reason is not only the uncertainty of knowing when we're going to get the numbers for the funding from the county, but also how much was the expected cut on funding, and working with those numbers to try to square our budgets has been a challenging activity, especially for our CFO Denise and for our executive director Christy. So very good work done there, and I'm really appreciate all you guys do for the school. I'm going to highlight some things in the budget, just for the sake of brevity of time. So the first four columns you see in here, column E, F, G, and H, refer to the gross dollar numbers. So for example, the total income for 2019-2020 fiscal year was $13,241,497. If we see the next four columns from I, J, K, and L, are per FTE or full-time equivalent, or for the ones that don't remember the jargon, is one student, pretty much a student. So Christy before mentioned that we have 1,077. The budget was done with 1,071. So hopefully we have some upside to the budget number of students. But so if I see the number per student for last year, the income per student was $13,308. So with those numbers in consideration, the next two columns I have, column G and H, are the delta, the year over year. So we see that the income from 2020 for this year to previous year went down 9%, but per student went down 16%. And the main reason of that is our funding per student went down significantly, 18%. And that's been a very challenging for the school, considering that most of our cost is fixed or stable. You know, we keep the same staff, we keep the same facilities, and you know, operations are as business as usual. So I'm going to say for what we did for this year budget, we you know, sharpen our pencils and we tighten our belts in some areas. We can say that the instructions, like for the students, we actually increased the number and we almost kept the same instruction cost per student. So we didn't furlough anyone, or we didn't downsize faculty. So it's all about keeping the kids with the quality and the conditions that we need for them to succeed in school. So saying that, our total expenses of this year is expected around $11,600,000, almost $12 million, or $1 million per month. Mostly around $10,800 per student. And one thing I want to call to attention is that with the current QBE funding, we don't cover the whole cost. So we have to do some more fundraising this year and some grants to try to cover the hole in the budget. That gives us still a positive year, around $400,000, but it's you know, it's a moving target. Let's see how we end the year, but we're trying the best, especially the school staff is trying the best to make this number work for this year.
I just want to make a couple of general comments about the budget, just so you're aware of the kind of big question marks. Well, on the revenue side, our aftercare income, really it's a shot in the dark at this point. However, aftercare does tend to pay for itself. It may not be the case as much this year because we are offering parents who are critical workers or financially needy, we're offering subsidized virtual care. The other one, just to note, is that one of the reasons the revenue doesn't look as bad as it should is because we are including the CARES fund, the CARES grant, and that's about $330,000. So a lot of those expenses that you see inside the budget are coming from that grant. For example, some of the different softwares that Katia mentioned are softwares that we're using the CARES grant. And what we did was we shifted technology out and we're able to buy all of the Chromebooks and iPads before school started, and we pushed other stuff into the CARES Act budget. And then on Luis mentioned this, but just to reiterate, we really kept the money in instruction. You'll see the big place we took it out is going to be PD, professional development, there in instructional staff training. And then we've just tightened up everywhere that we can. There are a few grants included in the maintenance and operations because we have been told we're going to get our facilities grants again for each campus, upper and lower campus. Does anyone have any oh, and then a question came up, I don't know if you all saw it, but in fundraising, the PTCC donated amounts are separated out. That would be the donations amount that you see above fundraising. The other fundraising is everything Megan is in charge of.
Perfect. Thank you, Denise. I didn't know you were here, so we just started talking. So.
Oh, it's okay. I'm also wearing my virtual shirt in case anybody, my PTCC shirt.
Oh, cool.
I have just a quick question if I can jump in for
Yeah.
Luis or Denise. On the bottom on expenses, if you could scroll down, Luis, just real quick, to where the school nutrition program with that 41% decrease there, the delta. I'm sure there's a good reason for it and probably code related, but can you just kind of walk me through that?
Yeah, we have none for the first
Okay.
semester. We're assuming none. And so, yeah, that's why.
Okay, and then okay, got it. So that makes sense. Thank you.
Yep. We're actually, our students are being helped through DeKalb County right now. So they're able to go to their home school, which is actually far more convenient for them, and pick up meals.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
Other questions on the budget?
And this does need to be voted on.
Yeah.
To be voted on, and we also fulfill the requirements. We conduct 2 public meetings, and we discuss within the financial committee as well previously with the board of directors. So we are in good shape on that case.
And y'all did a great job of the public meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a lot of challenging questions on it.
We had, it was not.
You had a bunch of people this year at the public meetings?
We had one, and her name's Christy Elliott Irby.
Wow, that's a 100% increase from last year.
Yes, it is.
Infinity, right? From 0 to.
Didn't have the food available. Hey, I know you all have been working on this for months, Luis and Denise and Christy. I've been in a lot of those meetings lately, but I know you've been working on it as far back as March and April, just knowing what was going on even pre-COVID with funding challenges. This has taken a lot of staff time to work with DeKalb County. Denise is reading articles and legal briefs and just an unbelievable amount of due diligence that she's been doing and flagging for other charters. So, you know, for those of you that haven't kind of seen the behind the scenes, it's been an incredible amount of work, and you all have done an amazing job with it. So, you know, I've said this before, but the fact that we have been so conservative in past years has made this year manageable. Next year probably will be a little bit harder than this year, just knowing what we know now. But we owe a lot to the leadership of the school to be able to be in the position we're in right now, to be able to weather this storm this year. So I do thank you, Denise and Christy, for that. Very, very much. So, okay. If there are no other questions, then Luis, you can go ahead and make a motion.
Okay, I move to approve the Glove Academy budget for the fiscal year 2020-2021.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anything else from Finance Committee tonight?
No, we had nothing else for tonight, so it's going to be a short one for us.
Okay. All right. Well, we have plenty of good content to fill our time tonight. So, all right. Thank you. Thank you both. Megan.
Let me get to my screen here. Okay. I put together this handy little chart that's easier to digest than what was in my report for my committee, but we met on August 18th And we're working on quite a few things. These numbers are just through the end of July, just so you know. So that's why they're on the low side. We hadn't really started fundraising. School hadn't ramped up yet. So we will see a pretty large jump next meeting when we have August numbers after open house and some of the annual fund appeals that I'm working on. But this is how we are dividing up our fundraising goals this year in the fund development plan that we'll talk about in a moment. We have the annual fund and then the school-led fundraising events. Obviously, none of the fundraising events have happened yet, but that kind of gives you an idea of what our goals are. And then for annual fund, we've actually created subcategories for the different areas that we're going to focus on, and all the corresponding goals are there. And you can see we're starting to get some funds in some of those categories. Most of them are coming from our recurring donors, and I think right now we had 3 major gifts when I looked at Apples this evening, and then we also have a pledge that came in August for a sponsorship for $5,000. So that will be showing up next meeting, and I'll also create a column for pledges that we're receiving. Some people are pledging to pay at a later date, but we can kind of get a better idea of what's coming in that way. So we're at 1% right now at the end of July. Any questions on that? All right, so just really quick highlights. You can read a little more detail in the report that I sent out that's in the packet. But the fund development plan is the big one for tonight for me. I finally got it drafted. Thank you to everybody who helped pull all of that information together in one place. Hopefully you guys had a chance to review it, and I'm hoping that we can vote to approve it tonight. Does anybody have any questions or revisions for that document?
Megan, I noticed this is so minor, but I read it and it's phenomenal. When there was a place where you talked about getting 26 $1,000 donors for whatever the category was.
Mm-hmm.
And at the top of the page, it said the goal was 26, and then the goals, it said 25.
Yes, and Denise caught that, and I don't think I changed that, so I will update that.
Yep. But I thought it was great. It was very thorough. It was laid out much more, very clearly to understand what goes in what category, and having the non-monetary goals, I think, was important as well. You're kind of ahead of the game here. We talked about doing committee goals, and you've already kind of hammered those out. So but nothing but good things to say, what I saw.
Anybody else?
Megan, can I ask, have you had anybody have any trouble with the link for donating, or to be doing it online, either as a drafted from a savings account or a bank account versus credit card?
Mm-hmm.
Have you gotten any feedback? I tried it, and I actually, and so it could just as much be user error, but I had to abandon ship, and I'll have to give it another go.
We have had some issues. There was the link that went out in the orientation packet was broken because we had to add an extension due to an error from the vendor side. I worked with them to get that fixed, and we've updated everything. People have been making donations without a problem. I know Luis had an issue earlier today. I think it does depend on whether or not you're on a computer versus your phone. And Apples also recommends that you don't use Safari because they have issues with that browser, but use Chrome, Explorer, or what's the other one? Firefox.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I did mine today, Megan, and it was a credit card, and or my check card, and it didn't do it the first time on Safari, but it worked on Chrome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little buggy, but we're looking to switch that eventually. We're just not there yet. So we have to kind of make do with what we have at the moment. So thank you for your patience.
The only other comment I'll make, Megan, is that I saw that that you had a plan to reach out to board members 4 times throughout the year to make sure we get 100% participation. And I'm gonna implore everybody to not make Megan do that and just go ahead and get to your 100 so she can.
That would be great.
Rest easy and put her time into other things. So
We are at 33% as of right now, and we're at 6% school-wide participation. So just to give you an idea.
Great.
Any other comments on the fund development plan so we can vote to approve? All right, so I move to approve the fund development plan for fiscal year 2021 with the one correction that Ryan suggested. Yep.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Good job, Megan.
Opposed?
Really great work. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Hearing no opposition, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Awesome, Megan. Great work.
Yeah, thanks for making it so easy to understand, Megan. That was good.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. I
I
appreciate it.
completely agree. Sorry, I meant to say that earlier. That was really well put together presentation.
Thank you. Now, like my husband was joking around. He was like, "Oh, you're all done with that now." And I'm like, "Well, now I have to implement it now that the plan is together, but at least we have a plan together." So I'm happy about that. All right, so moving on, as part of implementing the plan, I have started with my annual fund appeals. So as you guys know, everybody on the board received my first follow-up last week. And this morning I sent out an email to all of the Globe staff and teachers, and then a parent focused one should be going out. I was hoping tomorrow, but I need to get a few details worked out before that happens. So that will be coming out shortly. And then the partnership packet we're putting together, it's pretty text heavy right now, so I want to add some more infographics. And Drew, I wanted to see if we could work together to pull out the best data to highlight our successes and kind of who our students are. So I will be reaching out separately to see what you think you would recommend for that.
Sure thing.
And that's like for our partners and sponsors that we're looking to ask for donations and sponsorships from. Donor database management. I have finally finalized last school year. Since we closed everything out, I readjusted all the names. It's been a lot. And I'm happy that now I've kind of upfront asked people how they want to be recognized, so I don't have to go back and do that like I'm doing right now with last year. So there's now a process in place for this year. I think it'll go much more smoothly now that I have a template together. And hopefully we'll get a better database system in place at some point this year once we get all of our data kind of figured out. I'm still working with Meg Brown on that. Globetrot, we have decided to make this a 100% virtual event, given that COVID is still around. We're looking at November 6th, so please mark your calendars for that date. We're having a meeting tomorrow, and we haven't really talked much about the format yet. It's going to be exercise themed. We will have probably some pre-recorded videos leading up to the event, and then have some kind of live stream type thing on November 6th. We are still going to use DoJiggy, the same vendor that we used before, so kids could have their own fundraising page. And hopefully we can get some of the teachers involved and think of some fun ways to get everybody excited and motivated for that event. It is our biggest fundraiser, so we definitely want to kick it off with a bang. I think it's going to look a lot different this year, but I think hopefully we'll still have fairly good success and participation. We do need volunteers to help plan it, and if anybody doesn't have time to help plan but has some ideas for us, please reach out and let me know, and I will make sure to mention that during our planning meetings. Grants. We are submitting the diversity grant that Katris has been working on. She's sent a final draft to me to review. So hopefully that will get submitted soon. And then I have it on my list to research general operating grants that we can start applying for soon to hopefully get those in the bank this school year. And then our next development meeting is on the 15th of September at 7:30. Does anybody have any questions? That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Megan. Lot of hard work going on across all the committees, so really appreciate that. It's good stuff. I'm sure you're glad that's behind you, but yeah, there's still much to do, so thank you. All right, Drew, let's move on to academic committee, please. Drew, you're on mute still.
You'd think I've never used Zoom before, right? I mean, so sorry about that. So I have included the report as well, a fair amount of information, but Christy covered a lot of that too. So we'll go ahead and just focus just on this data report, which is the, I'm going to focus on Globe at a glance. So it's going to look at demographics for our students this as we kick off the new year to kind of understand who our students are, where they're coming from, and things that we want to be paying attention to. The data came from Globe Records in Infinite Campus this year. So we pulled it in early August of 2020. So there were some families who were either in the process of, unenrolling one student and re-enrolling another, or maybe an enrolling student for the first time who hadn't quite gotten their paperwork in. So there's a few numbers that are off from our total enrollment numbers, but the general trends that we're seeing here really should be reflective regardless of our whole student body. When we look at the whole student body, this is our enrollment by grade level, which you see in Christy's reports as well. So we see that the data here is more or less reflective of what she had in her report as well. When we look at the breakdown by race and ethnicity, we see our largest group, our white students, at 42.6%, followed by Black or African American Latino students at 28 and 22. There is an asterisk by Latino because the way that Infinite Campus is categorizing race and ethnicity leads some ambiguity, but we're pretty confident that's about where the number is, as well as Asian, and then our other two groups for Asian, American Indian and Native White or other Pacific Islander. And this is how the data are stored in Infinite Campus. Of course, this is only one way to represent race on a single category variable, rather than recognizing that we have many students who would identify as multiracial as well. When we look at that, how that data break down by grade level, what we do see are some differences that I think are anticipated based on kind of what our enrollment goals have been over the prior years. The gray bar here represents white students, followed by yellow for Black students, Latino for light blue, and then all other together. That was grouped all together just because of the small numbers in reporting. And so what we see is that in the places where we're enrolling in the last couple of years, like K1 and 2, and then up here in the, I think it is, in 6th grade, is that we see that we're having a more diverse student body when it comes to race and ethnicity. And so you can kind of see that trend change kind of over time throughout the, across the grades, but that also gives you a sense of where we anticipate things might end up over the next couple of years, looking a little bit more like K and 1 and a little bit less like maybe 3rd or 4th grade. Questions on the slide before I move on to the next one? All right. This is the same slide, so I'll actually skip over it. It's just another way of presenting the data, but it might not be quite as clear. So we also looked at a couple of our subgroups here. Gifted and talented is one of them. And so for those of you who may be interested in how the gifted and talented process works, or how that changes or evolves over grade level, that's what the data present here. 23% of the students at Globe are identified as gifted and talented students. There are no statistically significant differences by gender, so we would see that it's equally representative more or less by gender. And then we do see some differences by race and ethnicity, where white and Asian students are more likely to be enrolled compared to Black students. And so that's something that our academic community is thinking about. We see that similar trend showing up in the MAP scores as well with some of these race ethnicity disparities. The process for MAP involves MAP testing, the process for gifted and talented involves MAP testing to be identified. And so it's not surprising that we see those similar linkages there. Of note, we don't see any first graders here identified as gifted and talented. That process begins kind of towards the end of kindergarten and into first year, but because of COVID, we didn't complete testing on the first grade group from last year. And so that's why you see that 0 here for first grade, but that number we anticipate growing. And we see that as as the student progresses and matriculates through Globe from K all the way up through 8, that we see that number typically tends to increase. Questions on gifted and talented? Awesome. When we look at special education, 7.6% of Globe students are eligible for special education services. We do see a slight difference when it comes to gender, with 11.2% being male versus 4.0% at female. Though race was not a predictor of special education at Globe. And so that we see that that seems to be consistent across all race and ethnicity groups. So I think those are, that's kind of most from this slide as well. And I think, that's my last one. So that gives us just a bit of a glance. I wanted to be able to present some of this to the board, just so that some of those broader questions that people may have about our different groups and subgroups and who kind of fits where, to help guide us as we're kind of thinking about who our students are and helping to support them in their learning. As far as, I certainly presented this with a focus on looking at race and ethnicity disparities and looking at gender disparities and whatnot. That's going to continue to be a focus of the academic committee as we kicked off the summer, even to looking at discipline data by that as well. And so it's something we're going to continue to be talking about and reporting back to the board on as well. So I'll go ahead and stop my share and then open up for any general questions from other board members.
Drew, have y'all looked at the special ed percentages by grade or longitudinally to just look at identification or changes in that over time? Or are we seeing, like, do we see that percentage per grade level increasing as students get older? I'm just wondering if there's anything that we know about that.
That is a good question. I think Chrissy's shaking her head there, but that's actually a question that we could answer pretty quickly. And so I can get that back out, by email or afterwards to see the numbers. I mean, at 7.6%, the numbers are pretty small. So I don't know if we would see huge differences across the grade level. But I guess I would imagine it may be similar to gifted and talented sometimes, just as children get older. And I mean, I'm kind of guessing here, and Chrissy, you can confirm anecdotally if you think it's the same. I would anticipate that you would see a similar curve to the one you saw for gifted and talented.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure that's lower than the district. No?
The average percentage for special ed students in a typical elementary school is between 6 and 10%. Some go as low as 5, but it's we're pretty much typical.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was thinking of the 7. I think there was a 7 on there and not the 11 that was the overall. Yeah, I'm more thinking about the identification, and do we see students like coming in and leaving depending, like some.
Yeah, so if it is,
but then meet goals and then end up kind of getting off of it, or a 504, and so.
Well, the question on kind of pathways that children take, we could look at that historically going back those years, and that would be a more complicated question to answer, to see, you know, the degree to which people are enrolled or unenrolled, or how they change their enrollment in school or whatever. That may come up as a result of that. So I think that those are good questions that we can definitely explore further.
And one thing that we can look at too is when, you know, as we've grown, we've increased our special ed staff. So I feel really good about that too, that we've increased support for those students. So.
Do you have any thoughts on why there was such a higher percentage of male kids versus female kids?
Christy, do you have a thought on that? I could speculate, but it's probably better for you to answer.
There's not just a one answer. Special ed is very, IEP is what it means, individualized learning plan. And so it really just depends on every student. Every student is unique. And there's not an overarching, I think, saying that we can say that would say, oh yeah, this is why this many males versus females. It's not that simple.
Okay, I was just curious. It seemed like a big discrepancy, and I thought maybe there's some reason as to why.
I think that's a good question, Chip, and I'm not as well versed in the special ed literature as I am in others, but I wonder if that trend is something that we see consistent across elementary schools, and whether that's related to sort of gendered norms and expectations around behavior, or how people express emotions and things like that, or any other number of things that could come up that might lead to that. So I'll take a look at that though, but both of these comments are really great, and I want to look into them and then be able to get back to the board on how we might interpret our numbers versus what we might see as happening at other schools, or what we might see at other schools on average in DeKalb.
Thanks a lot. It was really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Does the special ed percentage include any student that has an IEP, even if they're in like a general classroom, or is it just students that are, okay. Just trying to understand that myself.
Yeah, it's any student with an IEP, even if they're 100% of the time in their inclusive environment with, you know, general education, is what typically schools call that classroom. But it can, like Christy said, it is, every single student is different. You know, you could have a student that's 10% pull out for one specific IEP goal, but 90% in classroom. And there's just every single one of them it's individualized. Like there are no two that look the same. We just had an IEP meeting today, so.
And it's and each student is develops an individualized. The I is the word individualized, right? And plan. There is a fair amount of literature on issues around perhaps misidentification or over-identification, particularly when it comes to race and ethnicity. And so, not seeing that happening at Globe, I think, was a promising a finding that we don't see that difference there. But I'm not as familiar with that on looking at gender, and so that's something I want to look into too.
All right, good questions and engagement. Thank you all. All right, well, let's move on to communications and hear from Jonathan.
Hello. Okay, well, due to communications, I've had a miscommunication. Ryan, I thought you were saying you didn't want us to be sharing screens just to read off. So luckily I did a very, very, very thorough board update in my board packet anyway. So we had a really good board meeting or committee meeting last month. And been on the actual chair now for 3 months, only the third time we've already met, but had a good meeting, really started to iron some stuff out. And as per my report, we went through a couple of the kind of to-dos as we're just trying to get things in the right place. And as a reminder, the communications committee is really going to focus a lot on board communication to the general public and outwards versus day-to-day of the school communication that's done by CADRIS. So that's kind of where we've been not really lending our support or time right now. So we've been talking about the org chart as well. It's all about clear communication and transparency for the general public to understand who's who and what we do as a board. And I've seen it quite often, and I've heard it quite often, that people don't actually understand what the board does or what we do and why we do it, and whether we're just there for the sake of being there. So I'm really trying to encourage transparency, and we need to obviously do a video welcoming Ryan to the whole world. And we've spoken about doing quarterly videos from Ryan and Christy to get their faces and personalities out there. We are updating the org chart. I can share my screen. I did have a small something going on, but the org chart itself is run through this platform here, and you'll see it's huge. I mean, there's a lot of people on here that potentially are no longer part of your committees. So maybe, Ryan, I know that you and Christy were looking to help with this, but maybe if each committee chair could update you a list of who they feel are on their committees and get that to yourselves or to me. This is something that's really easy for me to update and move around. So that way we can publish it, and it can be published in an easy to find place. So when we go back even to in person, people know who's responsible for which committee and subcommittee and everything else. So that's something I really would like to help us get done, just as a kind of good housekeeping. We spoke about communications. Yeah, sorry.
Quick on that, Jonathan. We did talk briefly at the board retreat about getting Board on Track updated with the same information. So what I did ask folks to do was email Kevin with their current active board committee members. And then, so once Kevin compiles that, I think you two can just sync up and you can update. He'll update Board on Track, and you can update this, and then we'll be square.
Yeah, okay. And this exports as a PDF or a JPEG, so then Caterers can link to it. We can have it on Board on Track. It can all be the same thing. Working on communication metrics. Christy's working on this. One of the things with everything that went on, COVID, racial injustice, elections, there's a lot of messages firing out at different times. And we had a good discussion about whether we're overloading parents with communication, because a lot of the time, as Christy can attest to, she gets requests or questions from things that just went out in a newsletter that week or the week before. So we discussed also on top of a communications matrix about having an information repository, more of an FAQ / kind of asset library on the website, a resource library. We just did discuss about, well, look, just how are we ever going to get parents to go to that? But that's about conditioning, and just keep letting them know, look, go here first, to try and save the hardworking staff the time of answering maybe the same question over and over again. And so this website's come along. Caterers is, again, I got a well done. I can take no credit. So she's really done everything trying to pull this together, and she's been keeping all the updates from everyone. If you've been to it just this last week, I went to it on mobile. It's looking 15 times better than it was even 4 weeks ago. So it's really falling into shape now, and everything's looking a lot better. But this resource hub will put the latest newsletters on there in backwards date order, so people can go in. It was searchable. We're going to maybe this take 3 months to get a searchable one up there that you can search under key terms and find out about iPad or insurance or anything else you may want to find out, so you don't have to keep requesting information from a staff member. We started putting together the activity tracker. So this will be an interesting view. Right now, there's nothing to report because August hasn't actually finished today. And so I didn't want to report July until we had July and August to look at 2 months. But we'll start seeing trends and historical data to see how many posts are going out, how many emails are sent, and the open rate and click-through rate. And so it's going to be a nice, interesting, I think that the general feel, and I put this in my board note, is that the communication is pretty solid going out from the school. It's not like there's like oh my gosh, we're going to learn anything that we need to be doing, but it's just more allowing people to understand just how much is going out. So the fact that 6 emails went out in July, 9 in August, and this has not been updated for about 10 days by Caterers. So I'm not sure which dates in August this covers, but I will get it fully revved up by the next one where it's done full calendar month, and we can watch our followers and engagement grow as well. Something that's a hot topic is the brand style guide. I've noticed that several logos being used. We've got the owl. I think the owl's really quite cool. I really like the owl, but I see some Christie's email signature. It's not on my email signature. It's not. And then the PTCC use a version of the owl with just the Globe Academy written underneath it. So it would be great to us to really land on what we want our public facing brand to look like, bit more playful or a bit more, less playful, and really kind of embrace whatever it is and drive it forward, where everything we do and everything. Drew, I know you'd made a request for a consistent PowerPoint, and I think I didn't send it to you. My email bounced back to the board at theglobacademy.net. So I ended up just doing a couple of individual ones, and I don't think I copied you in, Drew. But we will get a consistent PowerPoint when we know which brand we're following. And then we'll work on a centralized system. There's several centralized free online resources that we can have all the brand guidelines in-house or in one place. And so, so basically we'll know exactly where and what fonts to use, what colors to use, when to use them, how to use them, and everything else. It's currently in a Word document, and we need to formalize that into a true online resource for everyone to be able to use. So with that, next meeting, what we want to do, James Bratton, who I think you are all familiar with, the man in the kilt at the auctions, and I'm sure he has many other talents beyond that as well. But he has got a big passion for the Globe. He joined our committee, the communications committee, and he's going to be committee liaison. So Drew, if you have a communication need, Abba, Monique, you can come to me, you can come to James. Megan obviously is one that we obviously want to help with the development and fundraising. And it's about making sure that we understand what your individual committee's communication pains or problems or difficulties may be, and let's see how we can step up and help the rest of the committees communicate better. That's not to say none of you aren't doing a great job already. It's just if you know there's a problem that you really would like some help with, we'd love to be the place you come to for help. So we've set our next meeting as Wednesday, September 16th at 11 a.m., the day after Megan's meeting. And if any of you want to join that with any needs or requests, please do, or email me. And James will be poking into different committee meetings coming up as invited and required. Okay, so
great.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, perfect. No, I appreciate the template, and I saw Megan used it, and I have a slide or two coming up, so that's helpful. That's the direction that we talked about going, is kind of having a consistent way to conduct our briefing so that we're not scrolling through text. That's what I was trying to get at before the meeting tonight, was, you know, the folks who are on this call who aren't on the board don't really want to read and look at just long committee reports. So appreciate everyone's preparation for tonight. It's been really effective. So, all right. Let's go ahead and move on. Monique, are you looking to see if you're still on the phone? Don't know if you.
I'm on the line. I am.
Anything to report from the diversity committee this month?
I have no reports. Just briefly wanted to let everyone know that I am in touch with our executive director on the DEI training vendor stuff, and we've been talking about the work that they're doing, and Christy gave us a little overview about what they're doing, what they have going forward. We do anticipate over the next couple of weeks setting up a meeting between the DEI committee and Conscious Roots, which is the vendor that's doing the work for us, to just see where we can plug in and help them. The next DEI committee meeting will be in September. The meetings are going to be moved to the second Tuesdays in September, and so a invite will go out via Board on Track to the individuals that are in Board on Track, and after that, that list will be purged, and we will be moving on with just the identified individuals that have expressed an interest in the group and have added value, or we can kind of plug in based off of kind of the formula that we set forth last year, and trying to get that committee down to a working group that was identifiable and able to be productive. And so that was something that we were looking forward to. And then finally, we have also kind of been there for Katris and communicated with her on the information she needed to get going for the grant, the DEI grant. So if that information was not sufficient, we'll look forward to hearing back from Katris or the grants committee about what information they needed from us as they were trying to get that grant submitted. And that is all I have for today.
Thank you, Monique. Any questions for Monique? All right, great. All right, Executive Director Eval and Support Committee. We have not had a formal meeting. We do need to set one and kick it off. If you will recall, in the bylaws that we just approved, it actually designated in there a structure for that, which we did not have before. We kind of just selected board members who had some expertise or interest in it. But I think it was Monique's recommendation that made it into the bylaws that it would be the board chair, the academic committee chair, and the chair of the diversity committee, which hits three very, very important areas that we want to be able to coach and support the executive director on. So that is, as of that passing of that bylaw, that is the committee for the executive director eval and support committee. So we'll get a kind of a kickoff meeting for the year on the books here in the next month. Facilities committee. Facilities committee has actually gone into a little bit of hiatus over the past couple of months. We really haven't had any major projects that the staff has needed support on. I did touch base with Darren. You know, he has been on the committee for years and years and years. I've been the interim chair of that committee. And I think we're gonna move that to more of a quarterly meeting and assess as we go what happens with COVID and whether or not we start back up in the physical building. But at this point, there is not a lot of reason for the committee to meet frequently. There is not really anything that the staff can't handle that is happening right now. So we had that, I kind of had that discussion with Darren that I wanted to share with you. And then we will kind of continue to look for a permanent chair who may be sitting on this call right now. And then I will roll off of that. So no formal reports for either of the committees that I have right now. All right, so that takes us to ABBA. Anything for governance this month?
No, we are sort of took a little break after the bylaws, and our next big project is going to be the staff handbook that we're trying to get in shape. I think we still have some work to do on that, and that's with Christy and the staff. I know that they've had their hands full with getting school back and stuff, so I'm hoping that maybe the next few weeks we can get some attention focused back on that, and that will start off in earnest and trying to get that together. In addition, I think we've normally been meeting the 2 Wednesdays before board meeting, but I think we're going to move that to Thursday to accommodate a hopeful new candidate on the committee. So fingers crossed on that. And that's it for now.
All right, thanks, Abba. We're going to talk about committee schedules and new business. And it sounds like we've already had most of it set, but I wanted to see what that cadence looked like. And you definitely earned at least 1 month off after the bylaws.
Thank you.
It was the bylaws governance show last meeting. So, all right, great. And then KD, strategic planning. I saw you had a report and have some meetings coming up.
Yeah, so it was actually a pretty busy month in terms of setting the playing field for strategic planning for the upcoming academic year. I did include a formal report in the board packet, but just to summarize it, Christy and I met in mid-August. We got together to just say, what does this look like for us in the coming months, and how are we kicking off the new academic year, picking it up, from where things left off and got a little bit, when we got a little crazy in the spring. And then we were able to have a meeting, strategic planning meeting with Northstar, who has been the vendor that we've been working with for the strategic planning work, and Conscious Roots, who is the DEI vendor who just came on board. So we had 2 meetings with both parties in the last week and a half, really, to sort of discuss goals and plans for the upcoming academic year. And really just 2 important things about the strategic plan is that when we were initially drafting the strategic plan, virtual learning was not the platform that we were using. And so there's a lot that we want to go back and address in the work that's already been done with the strategic plan that recalibrates it for virtual learning. So some of those kind of main points, or at least places where we're going to be starting, there was a lot of work last year that went into the vision of teaching excellence. And we want to recalibrate that for the vision of virtual instruction, and how you incorporate distance learning or a remote platform in that. And what does that look like? How do we define that? And what guidance can we give and put in the hands of our teachers who are doing things so differently this year than we have in prior years. And the conversations around some of the recalibration we've also been able to incorporate conscious reach, which has been really great. And I'm excited about the work that can come from that. And the timing of this was actually so the way that the strategic plan, when we drafted it as a 5-year effort, there was actually a timeline adjustment that was built in after year 2. So we're actually sort of at that anyway, which is a really good time for us to say, okay, what do we have? How do we need to adjust it for what is our reality right now, and adjust, and then update our timeline as we move forward. So we're working with North Star on that, and Chris and I are planning to bring an update to everybody with the new timeline dates, approximations at our November board meeting is what we're targeting. And we have so we're scheduled to meet with North Star in September in a couple of weeks to go from there. So it's exciting work, and it's been busy.
Awesome. Thank you for the update.
Of course.
Questions for Katie? I've done strategic planning like on the staff side before, and in my current job, I do some of this work. And a lot of times those things end up on the shelf after the first year or second year. So it speaks to the quality of the work that it's still active and we're still using it and we're revising it as intended. So I know this is another one of these kind of, everybody doesn't see this happening all the time. And a lot of this, very public the first year when we were developing it. But I'm glad you are bringing up the new revised time schedules and how we're adjusting it, because I think it's important for the public to know that it's still alive and well and is a living document, and that it is to guide the things that we're doing internally strategically. And we'll continue to communicate that, but it's not something that we did for a year and then we're gonna not do anything for 4 years and then do another strategic plan in 5 years. So appreciate it, Katie and Christy and your team.
And it helps with the grants too. Just a lot of funders are looking for strategic plans, and it helps kind of guide where we go within our applications for general operating requests. So thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that gets us through the committee reports. We have no old business on the agenda, and just one more thing that I want to talk about that I promised you after the board retreat. And we do not have executive session tonight. So that is good. All right, so let me share here. All right, so I wanted to, I promised you all some proposed board meeting dates, and then I wanted to have a real quick discussion on the committee cadence, which I think we might already be most of the way there. And I will send you these, but I did have a couple of questions for the group on the schedule. So let me just talk you through what Christy and I had discussed. So we typically would meet on the 28th, which would be the last Monday of September, but that is Yom Kippur that wraps up at sundown, I believe, that day. So we want to respect that and have the meeting on the 21st is the current plan. So that's one thing that's just different than what we normally do. October is the last Monday, the 26th. November would be the last Monday, but there's a note there that is the Monday right after Thanksgiving, which, everybody is technically, we're back at school and we're back at it. But if if folks want to push that meeting, since we're not right now planning to do December, I think that's open to discussion, that we could push that a week to the first week of December. That would kind of space out our meetings. And then we would resume in January, February, March with our typical last Monday of the month. And then we get into another stretch where there's some questions. The regularly scheduled May meeting is actually graduation, so we're not gonna meet on that day. And Christy and I kind of talked about, you know, can we survive just not having a May meeting and meet in April and June? The concern there is making sure that we are presenting the budget in a timely manner and having enough time to respond and approve it in June. So a little bit of a question for the Finance Committee on the timing of that April meeting and also that June meeting. So that's kind of typically what we would do with some exceptions. So let me just go back to the top and start there. Thoughts on September 21st? Is there any challenge with that date for people or getting a quorum? Come on.
I have a conference on that date. So I'm tentative because
Okay.
it's, you know, it's all virtual, but that means my day will be kind of hijacked.
That's okay. So that's one. I can't, all right. I think I can see everybody now. So, but come
That's
on.
Abba. That was Abba.
Yeah, well, I can tell by your voice. I do get that.
It was not Chip.
It's the barbecue bandit. Yeah. Anybody?
Busting me.
So if we only have one potential conflict, I think we're going to go ahead and keep that date. October is good. Let's talk about this November, December, January stretch. Are folks okay having the Thanksgiving turkey hangover or just being on break and coming back on a Monday meeting? Or would you rather push that a week so that you can get back into a little bit of a routine?
I think it'd be great since we're not meeting in December if we pushed it back a week, not knowing
Yeah,
what everybody else thinks.
I'd request to push it a week as well.
2.
I agree.
I'm good the following week.
I don't mind. I never have understood Thanksgiving.
Jonathan's like,
July 4th is good for me too.
That's just a week off to me. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Actually, it's one of my favorite holidays. So,
all right. Does December 7th
Works for me.
challenging for anyone? Let's ask it that way.
No.
Works for me.
Nope.
All right. Great. I tried not to have an opinion on that beforehand, but I'm glad we landed there. And so then we'll resume back in January, February, March. Now let's talk, I think, Luis, I don't know if, I think Denise probably jumped off, but
I'm expecting a similar year to this one, so I think we're not going to have a budget by the end of May. So my thing will be we will probably present a couple of spending resolutions on June and then have the budget ready in August. I mean, that's my expectation right now. Considering that, you know, expect another COG next year, they're probably going to delay as much as they can. But that's what I think right now. I will probably go back to you next year before. So.
well, I guess let's think about both scenarios. If we're doing spending resolutions, do we need, you know, so my first question is always, you know, if the fiscal year starts on July 1, is the 28th enough time? Or do you want to approve it a week ahead of time? Denise she's pretty good about it. So she seems comfortable, like we did, you know, with these last couple of resolutions, of having it pretty close. So that's the first question is the 28th okay for the approval? Is the Finance Committee, is Denise comfortable with that? And then if yes, for the preview, is the 26th sufficient, or is that too early and we need to push that back to be later? And I think, Christy, we asked Denise this question, remind me, I think she said she was okay with the 26th.
She did say it was okay. And just so everybody remembers, there is a possibility that it could happen again like it did this year, where in June, because of the tightness of budgets and everything that's going on this year, that we might be in the same position where we might have to just approve a month of spending and then come back in July to approve the budget. So just know that could happen. As much planning as we do, we could still be in that same situation.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Denise say that we can do it. I think we'll be okay.
Okay. And then I guess just the last question would be, are we okay skipping May? Or what we did this year was we pushed it a week into June. And so I think this would actually push it to May 31st, which is that Memorial Day?
That's Memorial Day.
Yeah, so that's not gonna work. So is there any concern about going 2 months at the end of the year without a board meeting? We can always add one if we need to. I prefer to have it scheduled and cancel it so that we're not trying to schedule things at the last minute. So maybe we'll try to revisit this when budget season starts in February or so, and just kind of keep tabs on it. But all right. So last call, any objections, challenges, discussion points on this?
Looks good.
So this is going to be some. Yep. All right, thanks. And then the last thing we had discussed that we didn't get to at the retreat was just the committee meeting cadence, and some of y'all kind of already talked about it, but I do want to capture it here and make sure that we have, if there's anything that needs to be in a certain order, like I know development and communications kind of deconflicted some stuff, that we just go ahead and do that with everybody here. So first reminder, submit active committee members to Kevin. I've seen 1 or 2 of those emails, but maybe you've sent them and I haven't seen them. But the idea is that we want to purge Board on Track of all the inactive folks, the folks that aren't coming to meetings. So we're going to clean that up and then get that to Jonathan. And then we will start anew with recruitment for committees with new parameters and the things we discussed at the retreat, that we still have some follow-on work to do. So that's just a reminder. So for committees, I think I heard Monique said second Tuesday of the month, right?
Correct.
Abba, you mentioned 2 Thursdays before the board meeting. What does that kind of work out to be?
It turns on the board meeting. So if the board meeting moves, then we'll move it 2 weeks before.
So 2 Thursdays before. So if today is the 31st, you would have had it on the 20th?
We would have had it, yes, on the 20th.
All right, so 2.
We've been doing Wednesdays up until going forward, we'll start Thursdays. But so it would have technically been the 19th, but yeah.
Yeah, but going forward, it'll be the Thursday, okay. So I guess first, diversity governance, are there any dependencies that you all have, or have you run into any types of conflict where you're out of cycle with someone else? It seems like you're benchmarking off the board meeting, which is good. But is there anything we would want to deconflict for you all, or is this a good schedule that works?
Working for me.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna assume silence is consent there with Monique's on the phone. So, all right, academic is, Drew, do you have a standing time and date that you're doing, or are you?
We've modified a lot, and that's in part because of my schedule has changed so much from the spring to the summer to now. And actually what we currently have set up for September and October are going to have to change just because I'm going to be having a challenge with schedule. So I'm going to probably get in touch with Christy offline, but I'm sorry I don't have that for today. My sense is that second Thursday, like sometime in that second week, I think is going to be good because we have time after we've presented and discussed things at academic committee to get things ready for the board report. So I'm thinking probably second Thursday if that doesn't conflict with others.
Yeah, potentially depending on the schedule with governance, but if it's not a conflict with overlap, then then it's fine. So I think that's the only thing to look at is the staff. If you have staff that attend both, that would be what you would need to work on. So, all right, well, we'll put that there tentatively. And then development and communications, what did y'all iron out?
That we typically meet on the third Tuesday of the month, but I know Jonathan was it was getting a little tight for him to meet after we met before the board meeting. So I haven't talked with my committee yet, but we could possibly, I want to keep our next meeting on the 15th and then maybe in October see if my committee is able to do the second Tuesday of the month, which is the same as diversity, but we have CATRIS on our committee, which I don't think would be a conflict. So that would be starting in October.
Yeah.
And then that would give Jonathan another week, hopefully before the board meetings.
Okay. Christy, does CATRIS go to the diversity committee or is she solely on the development? That would be a lot for her. She's just development and communications right now. Okay. All right, and then Jonathan, what's yours?
Well, as per Megan, I'm trying to do it, give myself a couple of days break after, and because I have you and Christy join it and CATRIS, I mean, I want to make sure that we don't blow everyone's calendars up. I'd like to probably do it then the following week, which also gives James time to kind of come back with any content. Oh, well, I guess, yeah, because CATRIS is part of the development committee. So if we can do the third Tuesday, fantastic. If we've got to do that Thursday after the development committee, that'll give everyone a couple of days off. I can do that too.
Okay.
Now we do our one during the day, and I know that a lot of other people do it maybe in the evenings and stuff. So it may be fine to do it the same week anyway. So
yeah. Yep. I know yours is during the day, Drew. I think yours is during the day. Typically, Megan, I know yours is at night. But yours has been 6 or 7 o'clock. 6, and then when is Monique's diversity and evening one or at daytime?
It's typically an evening one. Honestly, I don't know, Ryan. When I was listening to everybody else giving their schedules, I'm thinking, we're putting together newer committees, and then like once you put everybody's together, I heard Jonathan mentioning like about Christy or Judy usually drops in on our meetings. I would love to be, since I am really flexible, and so I don't want to say something that's kind of rigid right now that our committee members, or even like we have a couple of teachers, and I don't know what days teachers have meetings. So personally, if my meeting needs to be moved, I want it to be on a consistent date, but at the date that I just kind of picked out the air that works for me, not that I'm going anywhere anyway. Right now, I want it to just be known that I can move mine around, or if we should all maybe pick a Tuesday and we just share, turn around and figure out which gets what Tuesday. I don't know, but it just seems like a lot for some of our admin that participate in our meetings. So just want to throw that out. But to answer your question, yes, Tuesdays, yes, evenings is what I'm envisioning at the moment.
Okay. No, that's exactly why we're doing this. So I appreciate that, kind of raising that. So I think probably the next thing is for, I'll kind of put these together in a mock calendar for a couple of months and look at what that timing looks like. And then Christy and I can look at staffing and who's in what meeting and see what, if it conflicts with anything. But I mean, the times that you've been doing it, the folks have been, I assume, showing up, which is why the time has worked for you. So, so hopefully it's not, people aren't turning down important meetings that Christy wants them to be at to go to these, that's been deconflicted to some extent, but I will talk to her about that in my weekly check-in with her. And then for now, just schedule your next meetings and put on track. I saw that there's a couple scheduled, but then they start to fall off. So if we can at least get 1 month out, knowing what you know now, and then we can look at this again in our next meeting. It's to be 3 weeks from now. We'll look at a mock-up calendar.
Are we doing the Board on Track training at some point too?
I need to check it. Kevin, if you recall, I think Kevin was going to record that. So I have not checked in with him on the status. So
yes, I plan to record it this week.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for reminding us of that. Okay. All right. Any other comments?
Hey, Ryan, finance on Wednesdays, the week before.
I go to those and I was like, oh, well, everyone knows when finance is.
Yeah, so the Wednesdays before the board meeting, so I guess third Wednesday of the month.
Thanks, Louise. I'm sorry. And those are daytime. So
no problem.
No.
It's a boring one, so.
I'm getting tired like everyone else. Once 9 o'clock hits, it's downhill. Okay, now I need to check. Did I miss anybody? I know, Katie, you're not having regular ones. So I don't think you're going to. I think that is everyone. Okay.
Ryan, mine are actually at 7:30.
Oh, they are.
Ours are later, just based on a committee availability.
Mm-hmm. And children and things like that. All right, cool. All right, well, I'll put this together in kind of a sequence and a mock-up for us to look at, and then we can, if you need to touch base with your folks in your next meeting to float some of these times, if you're changing it, go ahead and do that, and then we'll try to get a cadence set up. What I'd like to do is get these things set through the full year. I would love for Board on Track to have them through June. And if they need to change, that's okay. But the further out we can get and have some predictability, the better for us, for committee members. The sooner you get that on the calendar, then it trumps whatever else comes up on somebody else's calendar later, because it's already there. So, so that's my goal with doing this. So, all right. Anything else for the good of the cause? All right, now I can see everybody. All right.
I move.
Go ahead, finish that, Chip, please.
What's the wording? I move to end the board meeting. Adjourn the board meeting.
Adjourn.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? All right. We are.
Thanks, Ryan.
Well, thank you. Great reports. Great data tonight, everyone. Really appreciate it. Have a great evening. See you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Right.